The galaxy was burning, and silence filled the shattered void where once an empire thrived. The reluctant leader stood at the fractured command deck, his eyes fixed on the collapsing stars, haunted by memories of glory now turned to ash. Elias said, "We were not ready for this storm." His voice cracked, as if the words themselves betrayed him. Steel creaked, flames erupted in the distance, and hope trembled like fragile glass before breaking. The last warship drifted endlessly, a broken carcass in orbit of a dying planet. Shadows of once proud banners flickered across ruined bulkheads, reminders of a fallen dynasty. The universe no longer sang with order, but groaned beneath chaos. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, we cannot abandon them, not now." Her voice carried both fire and compassion, though fear clung to her gaze. Around them alarms screamed, painting red across the fractured steel corridor. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the weight of thousands upon his shoulders. He clenched his fists, torn between despair and duty. His silence was a vow whispered in the dark, a vow that destiny would demand be fulfilled. The dying planet loomed below like a scar across the stars, and Elias struggled to breathe as his lungs filled with ash-scented air. He remembered his father's voice, promising that the empire would never fall. Yet here he stood, surrounded by ruin. Dr. Lyra said, "We have to move, Elias. If we linger, we die with them." Her words struck deep, as if she pulled him from the edge of surrender. Flames roared louder, and steel cracked beneath their feet. Elias looked at her, haunted, yet resolute. The burden of generations pressed on his shoulders, but he could not abandon the final fragments of hope. They pushed through twisted corridors, stepping over bodies wrapped in silence. Elias whispered promises to those who could no longer hear. Each step felt like betrayal, yet survival was their only choice. Dr. Lyra said, "The escape pods, they're close." She held the datapad tight, her voice trembling. The ship groaned like a wounded beast, threatening collapse with every second. The last chamber opened before them, escape pods flickering in readiness, their silver hulls glowing under emergency light. Elias froze, for the silence within carried too much weight. Dr. Lyra said, "This is it, Elias. If we fail to launch now, all ends here." She placed her hand on his arm, grounding him as destiny towered over them. The ship trembled violently as explosions tore deeper into its spine. Elias felt the heat pressing against his skin, a reminder of the Empire's burning end. Dr. Lyra said, "Go, you cannot let their sacrifice mean nothing." Her voice shattered the silence, commanding him to live when all else demanded death. Elias clenched his jaw, stepping into the pod as steel collapsed behind them, sealing the fate of countless lives. The escape pod jolted violently as it broke through the burning skies of the ruined planet. Elias pressed his hand against the viewport, his breath clouding the glass as fire trailed behind them like dying stars. Dr. Lyra said, "Hold steady, Elias. If the stabilizers fail, we'll be scattered across the surface." Her tone carried urgency, yet beneath it was the soft strength that had kept them alive. The pod rattled like a coffin hurled through hell, but Elias refused to let go. He saw crumbling cities below, towers breaking into ash. He whispered prayers not for himself, but for those who had already been lost. Dr. Lyra said, "Do not carry all of it alone, Elias. Burdens this heavy will consume you." She placed her hand gently over his, their eyes meeting through the red glow of warning lights. He nodded silently, though his heart was tearing apart. The galaxy had taken everything, but still demanded more. The pod slammed into scorched earth, skidding across cracked stone before grinding to a halt. Dust rose like a choking fog, obscuring the ruins of what once was civilization. Elias forced open the hatch, the weight of silence pressing down. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, look around. This was once a city of light, and now only shadows remain." Her words carried sorrow like a funeral hymn, her eyes reflecting the charred bones of towers. Elias stepped out, boots sinking into ash. He remembered the voices of his people, songs carried through palaces now buried under rubble. His chest tightened, guilt and grief twisting together. Dr. Lyra said, "You cannot keep bleeding for what is gone. You must fight for what remains." Her hand brushed against his arm, anchoring him in the wasteland of despair. They walked through streets once alive with laughter, now littered with silence. Ash fell like snow upon the ruins, coating their boots. Elias felt the ghosts of his ancestors pressing close, their legacy shattered before his eyes. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, if you lose yourself in grief, you will never rise again." Her words were firm, yet tender, echoing across hollow streets. He paused near a broken statue of a king who once ruled proudly. Elias whispered, "They believed in me. I failed them all." His voice broke, heavy with guilt that felt impossible to bear. Dr. Lyra said, "No, you have not failed, not while you still breathe. You are here. That means hope is still alive." Her faith wrapped around his despair like fragile light in endless darkness. The ruins echoed with distant thunder, though no storm touched the skies. Elias knelt by a broken wall where children's carvings marked stone, traces of innocence lost. His chest ached as he traced his fingers across the lines. Dr. Lyra said, "Memories remain even when everything else is gone. Do not let despair steal them from you." Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. Elias said, "These walls held laughter. Now they hold silence. How can I lead when I could not even save them?" His words trembled like glass about to break. Dr. Lyra gripped his hands tightly. "Because leadership is not about what you lost. It is about what you choose to protect now." As twilight fell, the ruins glowed faintly under the dying sun. Shadows stretched long across broken streets, whispering of what was once glorious. Elias stood tall for the first time since the fall, though his eyes still burned with sorrow. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, you cannot rebuild alone, but if you stand, others will stand with you. This galaxy is waiting for someone to remind them what hope looks like." He clenched his fists, the weight of despair turning slowly into resolve. Elias said, "Then I will rise. Even if the stars themselves turn against me, I will rise." His voice carried, firm as steel in the fading light. The ruined city stretched behind them as Elias led the way into a hidden bunker, beneath shattered stone. The heavy doors groaned, opening into a dim chamber filled with faint blue lights and whispers of forgotten machinery. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, are you sure we should trust this place? The signals could be a trap." Her gaze swept the shadows, unease clear in every motion. Elias answered, "We have no choice. If there are survivors here, we need them. If it is a trap, then I will face it." His voice carried steel, though doubt lingered in his eyes. As they descended deeper, the air grew heavier, charged with secrets waiting to be unveiled. The galaxy's wounds echoed in the silence, reminding Elias that peace was far beyond reach. In the chamber, a figure emerged from the shadows with measured steps. His eyes gleamed with both confidence and calculation. Marcus, once a trusted ally, revealed himself at last. Elias froze, his jaw tightening. Elias said, "Marcus, I thought you died with the fleet." His words were sharp, torn between relief and betrayal. Marcus smiled faintly, a mask hiding darker truths. Marcus said, "I survived. And I learned the Empire's death opened doors for those bold enough to walk through." His tone carried dangerous charm. Dr. Lyra whispered, "Elias, he is not the man you once knew." The tension in her voice mirrored the weight of deception filling the room. Elias stepped closer, fury rising in his chest as he searched Marcus's face for truth. Elias said, "You abandoned us, and now you stand in shadows, speaking of doors and power." His voice echoed through the steel chamber. Marcus replied smoothly, "I abandoned nothing. I chose survival when others chose martyrdom. The galaxy respects strength, not mourning." Dr. Lyra said, "Strength without compassion only breeds tyranny." Her eyes burned as she faced Marcus, her voice unshaken despite the storm within. The air thickened, the lines between past loyalty and present betrayal cutting deep into the silence. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice like a serpent. Marcus said, "Join me, Elias. Together we can build something stronger than the broken empire. But if you stand in my way, you will be swept aside." Elias's breath caught, torn between rage and sorrow. Elias said, "You were my brother in arms. Now you are a stranger wearing his face." His words cracked like thunder. Dr. Lyra placed herself firmly at Elias's side, her voice steady as stone. Dr. Lyra said, "We will never stand beside those who betray for power." The chamber hummed as silence stretched, the weight of an unspoken war pressing down upon them all. The tension snapped as Marcus turned away with a cruel laugh echoing in the chamber. Marcus said, "The galaxy does not wait for the hesitant, Elias. Soon you will see that only those willing to seize control will survive." Elias's heart burned with grief as much as anger. Elias said, "Then you are no longer my ally. You are the enemy of every life you claim to save." His voice hardened into steel. Dr. Lyra said, "We leave now. There is no hope in shadows such as his." Her hand tugged at Elias, pulling him from the abyss of betrayal. The chamber doors closed behind them, sealing the divide between loyalty and treachery forever. The night fell heavy as Elias and Dr. Lyra crossed the broken plains, their path lit only by distant fires. The silence felt unnatural, as though the ruins themselves waited for something to awaken. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, we are being watched." Her voice was low, but her eyes tracked the shadows with precision. Elias placed his hand on the hilt of his blade, each step deliberate. Elias said, "If it is Marcus's men, we finish this here. If not, then fate has sent us a new storm." From the darkness, a cloaked figure emerged, face hidden, voice calm and deliberate. Adrian said, "You will not survive without me. The galaxy is far more fragile than you imagine." Elias raised his weapon, anger flashing through his gaze. Elias said, "You speak like a phantom. Show yourself or leave us in peace." His voice struck hard against the night. Adrian lowered his hood, revealing sharp eyes burdened with secrets. Adrian said, "I am Adrian. I have walked paths older than your empire. Your war is not just your own. It is tied to something ancient." Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, we should hear him. The way he speaks, it carries truth, even if it burns." She reached for Elias's arm, grounding his fury. Elias said, "Then speak quickly. If you deceive us, I will end you." His words echoed with the weight of vengeance and duty. Adrian stepped closer, his words carrying a gravity that cut deeper than any blade. Adrian said, "The empire fell because it ignored the ancient warnings. A weapon sleeps in the void, older than your bloodlines. Marcus seeks to claim it." Elias's breath froze. Elias said, "You expect me to believe in legends while cities burn before my eyes?" His voice cracked with both anger and disbelief. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, legends exist because truths were buried in them. If Marcus holds this weapon, he will not stop at ashes. He will rewrite the galaxy itself." The night trembled with revelation, as though the stars themselves leaned closer to listen. Elias's heart raced as the truth pressed against him like a storm. Elias said, "If Marcus finds this weapon, then nothing will stand in his way." His voice carried fury mixed with dread. Adrian said, "That is why I am here. I alone know the path to the vault where it rests, but I will not guide you for free. There is a price." His gaze hardened with secrecy. Dr. Lyra said, "A price already paid in blood should not be taxed further." Her voice cracked with fire, her eyes burning into Adrian's guarded face. The air grew cold, the ground trembling faintly, as if the galaxy itself responded to their vow. The silence stretched long before Elias lowered his blade, his eyes locking with Adrian's. Elias said, "If you betray me, I will end you. But if you speak truth, then together we may yet stop Marcus." Adrian's lips curled faintly, neither smile nor scorn. Adrian said, "Then you have chosen wisely. Tomorrow we walk the path no empire dared tread." Dr. Lyra whispered, "Then fate binds us now, and may the stars not curse our steps." Her voice trembled, yet held strength unbroken. The three stood united under the burning sky, shadows long against ruins, as destiny carved a new path before them. The vault's entrance loomed, carved into a mountain scarred by centuries of storms. Ancient glyphs glowed faintly, their light pulsing like a heartbeat. Elias felt dread coil within his chest as silence pressed hard around them. Adrian said, "This is the threshold. Beyond it lies the weapon Marcus seeks. Once awakened, it cannot be undone." His voice carried finality, his cloak shifting with the rising wind. Dr. Lyra said, "Then we stop him here. If this power falls to Marcus, the galaxy itself ends." Her eyes burned with fire as she stepped closer to Elias. Elias whispered, "Then let destiny write with our blood, if it must." His words hung heavy, echoing across stone like the promise of war. The ground shook as Marcus and his soldiers emerged from the shadows, weapons drawn. His smirk carried venom, his eyes gleaming with ruthless ambition. Marcus said, "You brought me exactly where I needed to be, Elias. Loyalty dies, but power lives." Elias drew his blade, rage sharp in his voice. Elias said, "You will never touch what lies beyond these doors, not while I still draw breath." His stance carved steel into the storm. Dr. Lyra said, "We stand together. He cannot break us unless we let him." Her hand brushed Elias's shoulder, grounding him in the chaos. Adrian's eyes narrowed, cloak swirling. Adrian said, "The battle you fear begins now." His words thundered as the sky cracked above. The clash erupted, steel against fire, screams swallowed by thunder. Elias fought with fury, his blade carving through the storm of soldiers. Each strike carried his grief and his vow. Marcus laughed through the chaos, striking with ruthless precision. Marcus said, "You cannot stop destiny, Elias. You were always too weak." His blade slashed sparks across stone. Dr. Lyra shouted, "Elias, behind you!" Her voice cut through the storm as she pulled him from a killing strike, her Metis's hands now bloodied with war. Adrian whispered arcane words, summoning ancient energy from the glyphs, his eyes glowing faintly as the vault pulsed with rising power. Through the storm, a broken figure stumbled into the battle, a man scarred by shame and drink. It was Cassian, once a great general, now hollow but unyielding. Cassian said, "Let me stand once more, Elias. Let me die with honor." Elias's heart twisted, torn by sorrow and hope. Elias said, "Cassian, your war ended long ago. You owe nothing more." Cassian raised his blade, eyes burning with tragic fire. Cassian said, "Then let this be my redemption. If my death buys you one breath longer, it will be worth everything." Dr. Lyra whispered, "He means it. Elias, do not stop him now." Her voice carried grief as Cassian charged into Marcus's soldiers with desperate courage. Cassian carved through soldiers, each strike fueled by guilt and redemption. His cries echoed like thunder until blades pierced him from every side. Still, he stood tall, bloodied yet unbroken, buying Elias precious moments. Elias screamed, fury tearing through him. Elias said, "You will not die for nothing, Cassian." His blade shone with unstoppable wrath. Marcus sneered, watching Cassian collapse. Marcus said, "Even redemption dies under my vision." His words were venom, laced with cruel certainty. Dr. Lyra knelt by Cassian, tears streaking her soot-stained face. Dr. Lyra whispered, "Your name will not be forgotten." The storm wept with them as Cassian's last breath left in silence. The storm faded into hollow silence as the battle's embers died. Bodies of friend and foe littered the ground like broken stars fallen to earth. Elias stood over Cassian's lifeless form, his chest heavy with grief and rage. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, we must move. If Marcus reaches the vault's heart before us, Cassian's sacrifice is wasted." Her voice trembled, yet strength held firm beneath sorrow. Adrian said, "The path continues below, but something waits there, something older than war itself." His eyes glowed faintly with unease. Elias whispered, "Then we follow, and we face whatever comes. For Cassian, for the Empire. His vow cut through silence like steel through shadow. The vault doors shuddered open, revealing a stairway descending into darkness. The air was heavy, filled with whispers older than memory. Elias tightened his grip on his sword, his jaw set with determination. Adrian said, "What sleeps here does not belong to mortals. Yet Marcus will tear it from the void if left unchecked." His tone carried ancient warning. Dr. Lyra said, "Then we cannot falter. Whatever waits below, we must face it before Marcus does." Her voice echoed in the stone chamber. Elias stepped forward, his silhouette framed in the glow. Elias said, "Then we walk into the abyss together." The stairway opened into a vast chamber carved from stone and fire. At its center stood a single figure, scarred and ragged, yet alive against impossible odds. His eyes burned with haunted memory. Elias lowered his blade slightly, stunned. Elias said, "Who are you? That you survived here?" The man's voice cracked with the weight of pain. Darius said, "I am Darius. I lived where none should. I saw what the void carries, and I escaped, though my soul never will." Dr. Lyra whispered, "He is a survivor. His knowledge may be the key to stopping Marcus." Darius stepped closer, his body trembling with every motion. Darius said, "The void weapon is no legend. It devours what it touches, mind and soul alike. Marcus seeks it, but even he does not know the price." Elias said, "Then tell us how to stop it. If you endured its shadow, you must know the path." His voice cracked with urgency. Darius' eyes filled with torment as he whispered, "The path demands sacrifice greater than you imagine. It demands blood willingly given." Dr. Lyra's breath caught as silence filled the chamber, the truth striking like a blade. The chamber trembled as Marcus's voice thundered from the shadows. Marcus said, "Then let the sacrifice be theirs, not mine." Soldiers surged forward, blades raised, their footsteps shaking stone. Elias gritted his teeth, raising his weapon. Elias said, "Then this ends here, Marcus. You will not claim what you do not deserve." His words rang like iron. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, together. We hold until the last breath." Her stance burned with resolve, her eyes unflinching. Darius gripped a jagged blade, his voice raw. Darius said, "I will not run again. If death comes, I face it beside you." The chamber quaked as Marcus stepped forward, eyes burning with greed. Marcus said, "The weapon is mine. None of you will leave this place alive." His voice echoed like thunder across stone walls. Elias raised his sword, his stance unshaken though his body bore wounds of battle. Elias said, "This ends tonight. You will not claim the stars, not while I draw breath." His vow cut the air like lightning. Dr. Lyra said, "Elias, stand firm. Cassian's sacrifice led us here. We cannot falter now." Her voice carried fire, even as her hands trembled. Adrian spread his cloak, summoning ancient energy that lit the vault in eerie glow. Adrian said, "The weapon stirs. Choose quickly or it will choose for us." The vault trembled as Marcus struck first, his blade clashing against Elias's with thunderous force. Sparks showered across the chamber, fire and steel roaring together. Elias gritted his teeth, forcing strength from the last remnants of his will. Elias said, "You will never own what was born from sacrifice." His words struck harder than his blade. Marcus sneered, eyes blazing. Marcus said, "Sacrifice is weakness. Power bends to those who take it." His cruelty echoed through steel. Dr. Lyra screamed Elias's name as she fought to shield him from flanking soldiers, her Metis's hands now drenched in blood. Adrian's incantations carved light into air, while Darius fought like a man with nothing left to lose. The weapon awakened, its core glowing with blinding light as the vault shook apart. Adrian cried out, "It will consume everything if not bound." His voice cracked as he poured power into the glyphs. Elias pressed Marcus back with fury, sparks burning his skin. Elias said, "You will not take it, Marcus. Not now, not ever." Marcus roared, striking harder. Marcus said, "Then you will fall first, and the galaxy will kneel to me." His blade raged with cruel fire. Dr. Lyra rushed to Adrian's side, her voice breaking. Dr. Lyra said, "What must we do to stop it?" Adrian's answer came cold. "A life must be given willingly." Silence froze the air. Darius stepped forward, voice raw and unshaken. Darius said, "I survived when I should have died. Let me give what I could not before." His eyes burned with haunted resolve. Elias shook his head fiercely. Elias said, "No, too much has been lost already. I will not let you pay this price." Dr. Lyra's tears streamed as she whispered, "If he chooses, Elias, you cannot take it from him." Her words trembled yet carried truth. Darius gripped his blade and faced the weapon's core. Darius said, "Then let my death mean something at last." With a cry, he plunged forward as light engulfed him. The explosion of light silenced all. When it faded, the chamber lay still, the weapon's glow extinguished. Darius' body was gone, only ash drifting in the air. Elias dropped to his knees, his sword falling heavy to the stone. Elias whispered, "He gave everything so the galaxy might breathe again." His words carried grief and reverence. Marcus staggered back, screaming with rage as his power slipped away. Marcus said, "This is not the end." His shadow vanished into the collapsing vault. Dr. Lyra placed her hand on Elias's shoulder, whispering, "Then let us carry his memory. Let his sacrifice light the path forward." Their silence held the weight of eternity.